you take three top sectors, business sectors, after the financial institutions, oil and gas, next is telecoms when it comes to the payment of taxes.
Financial institutions, oil and gas, telecommunications, the three major contributing sectors to the tax bill in Nigeria. Today on Tax Matters, we're going to be talking about issues surrounding those sectors. The program is Tax Matters. I am Pearl Naimaka.
And I am Chiamaka Ohaochi.
The Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, NFIU, is one of the watchdogs of the financial services sector in Nigeria. On Monday, the 6th of May 2019, the NFIU, led by its newly appointed director, Malam Tukur Modibo, paid a courtesy visit to Revenue House in Abuja. On hand to receive the NFIU delegation was Mr. Babatunde Fowler, the Executive Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service.
We're happy that for the last quarter of 2018, we're able to achieve targets, well, not a target, but a collection of 5.3 trillion, the highest in the history of Nigeria. But the beauty of it all was that 54% of it came from non-oil, which is the direction that the government is looking at. And one should remember that you only pay tax on profits or income. So that shows that the non-oil sector is growing, and we're hoping that as it grows, there will continue to be tax compliant, and that we'll be in a position to fund all tiers of government without looking outside. That achievement could not have been possible without other stakeholders who helped us. And I'm glad to put on record that your organization helped us in no small matter in giving us information where taxes were not paid but transactions had taken place. So we thank you for your support.
Mr. Tukur Modibo is the director NFIU.
The FIRS has been a partner of the NFIU from day one. And locally, the FIRS is the first agency that we sign MOU with at the FIU. And that in itself underscores the importance of the relationship and how we all feel for this country. In our own records, there is no government agency that recorded so much transition and changes since the advent of this democracy, like the Federal Inland Revenue Service. What happened at the FIRS is a complete revolution. The FIRS has been repositioned more than any government agency in this country. So, and the results are showing in the figures. You made a foundation here. There is no doubt about it. But what you built on it within the last 4 or 5 years is stronger than the foundation you made on ground. Then on the side of the FIU, what we are doing now as a complementary measure to make sure that you keep that sustainability, in the restructuring we did, we have a tax-related money laundering unit. Now, the main purpose of that unit is not to come and bother you with requests or disrupt what you are doing or maybe overburden you with reports and requests and so on. But what we are doing is that we want to ensure that tax is the beginning of every criminal investigation. So if we request today a request from the police or the EFCC or the ICPC or the CCB or any other place, now before we even give them back the information they need from us, locally and internationally, as you know, we'll first of all make sure that that company is tax compliant. That is number one. So, and then if in the future we're able to give each other complementary access to our databases, then that will become easier, and we have started it. So what we do now is when we receive a request from EFCC, we first of all check if the company has no tax problems, because before you commit a crime, it means you must have violated the law in so many ways. Then we also check with the telephone companies to make sure that the telephone you registered in committing that crime, you have in committing that, is registered. Then we also hit the secret registry to make sure that you are filing your returns. And then, first of all, even if the company is not a fake company, and that's the starting point.
There is no hiding place.
No.
So if you can share with us at your own time what you want us to be checking for you, since we have the whole data in one place, and then we have opportunities that others don't easily have. Like if you mention an individual, we can pull down all his bank accounts at the same time. So which means that, and not only your bank account, if your BVN is tied to a government agency account, we'll pull down that government agency account at the same time with your personal account. And then if it is tied to a company or body corporate or an NGO, we will also pull everything at the same time.
Again, I say there is no hiding place.
Those who have ears, let them hear.
Of course, Mr. Fowler reacted like the quintessential taxman that he is.
We often tell people jokingly that we're not policemen, but regardless of where the money comes from, we believe it should be taxed. And I think that was one of the issues at the last meeting at the UN that we're moving towards. There's people talk about transfer pricing, people talk about money laundering, people talk about different revenues or incomes. But the question that we're asking is that we should make sure that all revenue, regardless of what topic or heading it comes under, has to be taxed. The law agencies will do whatever work they have to do, but that revenue originated from somewhere and was used for something. No revenue should go untaxed. Even when they're pursuing proceeds of corruption and all that, we sometimes ask where the money came from. Was it taxed? What the money was used for, was it taxed? And once the money has been recovered, we believe that
it has to be taxed.
It has to be taxed.
Welcome once again. There is always talk about the existence of multiple taxation in the Nigerian polity. When we say multiple taxation, what exactly are we talking about? Do we have multiple taxation in Nigeria? If we do, at what tier of government?
If we have multiple taxation, what is the way out of the problem? On Thursday, the 23rd of May 2019, the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, organized the first ever Nigerian Telecom Leadership Summit in Lagos.
And top on the agenda was talk on multiple taxation. Keynote speaker at the event was former Minister of Communications Technology, Dr. Mrs. Omobola Johnson.
You know, I'm so disappointed that I left government in 2015. This is May 2019, we're still talking about the multiple taxes. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm so glad we have the chairman of FRS here. You know, an executive order would do this thing. I was talking to somebody, just tell the state governors, you can't charge this for this infrastructure anymore. We need this thing. And I think that's what the NCC needs to start doing, is to really begin to not just engage, but be a bit more forceful around letting people know that unless you get rid of these taxes, unless you get rid of these obstacles, we cannot build the infrastructure to be a digital economy.
The panel session followed.
Due to frequent and rapid changes in technology, we need to invest and continue to invest. But for investments to come, and for investors to be willing to invest, they are watching the trend of what is going on at any point in time, and they need a minimum level of guarantee of policy, a minimum guarantee level of certainty in the operating and regulatory environment, without which they will not come to invest. We've been talking about this issue of multiple taxation. And you see, sometime I'm hearing the former minister speak this morning. I said to myself that we've been talking about this year in, year out. And even to us, as an industry, we are sounding to ourselves like broken records. But the fact remains that these taxes are not going away. 10 years ago, when we spoke about multiple taxation, we're dealing with the issue of right-of-way, planning, permit, and all that. I checked this morning. Total count of taxes and levies on the industry stands at 39. And these are taxes that are applied both at state level, local government level, federal government level. Some of them are multiple in nature. Some of them are not multiple, they are punitive. Some of them are applied on us as if we're an extractive industry. Looking at the list, what have we got to do with effluent discharge? What have we got to do with generation emission tax? What have we got, and I'm happy that the chief tax collector is here. So what have we got to do with generator emission? Now what have we got to do with generation evaluation? These generators are same that is being used by other sectors of the economy. And why are they aimed at the telecom sector? Now, I think that as an industry, both regulator and operators, we need to begin to look at the strength of the bankers committee, the banking sector. I'm not sure any regulator, whether the bankers regulator or any other secondary regulator, can do anything that will affect the banking sector, and the CBN will not stand up and say, no, this should not happen. Now, you come to us to say that we have to pay generator emission. Our next door neighbor is a bank, he's using the same generators, he's not facing the same tax. You come to us, we have to pay for sanitation levy. Our next door neighbor is a government agency, he doesn't have to pay the same. Our next door one is a hospital, doesn't have to pay the same. And when these things are not done, the end of it is that they resort to what we will call self-help. They go to take over site, log the site, harass workers, harass operators, harass their contractors, and all that. And whether we like it or not, those who will invest in our sector, they're looking at all of these happenings, and it's guiding their investment decision. And sometimes the people are laughing at us, actually. They look at us as we have one industry that is driving the economy. You have one sector that is supporting other sectors of the economy, yet that sector is still so volatile and still so vulnerable to issues of taxes and levies. And we are not saying don't apply tax. We're not saying don't apply levies. But if you will do so, don't make it punitive. If you will do so, don't make it a target, don't make one sector a subject of that taxation. And if you must do all of that, do not go and see sites.
Multiple taxation, multiple taxation. They went on and on. And one thought that session was on best fit infrastructure. So what does multiple taxation have to do with it?
I wonder. Maybe that was why Dr. Salami began his own presentation this way.
As I came in, the first thing I heard was multiple taxation. And I thought to myself, so what am I going to talk about? And then the person who sat next to me says, well, everybody has been talking about multiple taxation all morning. And I said, oh, well, in which case, perhaps it's a good time to just go for lunch and do something else. But I've been asked to speak about the implications of multiple taxation for the telecoms industry. For me, it's important that we set a bit of context, because whether we like it or not, telecoms has become a very important sector for the Nigerian economy. Almost 9.5% of Nigeria's economy in 2018 came from telecoms. Today, you're looking at a sector that's in excess of 200 million lines strong in terms of the telephone network alone. And it's now become the fourth largest sector of the Nigerian economy. Normally, when we talk, we say there are 6 big sectors in the Nigerian economy. Agriculture is the largest, and that at 23%. Distribution is 17%. Then you speak of manufacturing, which is about 10%. Then there's a toss-up between telecoms and oil and gas. Now, think about that carefully. There's a toss-up between telecoms and oil and gas. Who would have thought that in 2000? Less than 0.5% of GDP. And yet, 2 decades later, almost the same size as the oil and gas sector in terms of its contribution to the nation, to the output of this economy. But look at that carefully again. It's not just that it's 9.5%, but if telecoms had done badly in 2018, the Nigerian economy would have done very badly indeed. More than half of the growth of this economy last year is due to telecoms. Now, I emphasize that very specifically, just to underscore the primacy of this sector within the context of the Nigerian economy. The sector is about almost $32 billion as far as its size is. And when you look at it, as I said, almost 9.5% of the economy. Where does multiple taxation arise from? For me, it's very clear. There are a whole host of things. I was looking at a particular document which, and I must thank my friends at Olaniyan Ajayi, where they've done a study of multiple taxation across different sectors in Nigeria. And as you can see, well, for telecoms, like everyone else, CIT and education tax. But then there's 1% NITDA. Then, in addition to that, depending on which jurisdiction you are in, you could get telecoms operation charges, environmental charges, infrastructure development charges. Now, if that is the case, what are we actually doing? Well, I'm clear about a number of things. The first thing that these multiple tax arrangements do is that they make it unattractive. They make the sector unattractive. Remember the point I made. The golden goose, or sorry, the goose that lays the golden egg will not necessarily always do so unless it is properly treated. As I came in, there was some stuff around executive orders. And I thought to myself, well, I'm sure there are some lawyers in the house, but I did hear people say, oh, the state would disagree, da. But has anybody thought the Cybercrime Act might actually provide a solution? But a lawyer friend of mine tells me that Section 3 of the Cybercrime Act allows the National Security Advisor to advise His Excellency the President to designate certain infrastructure, critical infrastructure. So this is not about going back to the National Assembly. The law actually already does exist. The second thing that in my book is also very important if we are going to resolve these issues around multiple taxation actually has more to do with the operation of the law. Nigeria is one of those funny countries, and forgive my use of the terminology funny, but it is funny, where you're a taxpayer, the taxing authority says this is how much you pay, and their accuser, prosecutor, judge, and jury in their own case. I've never understood that. At the very least, whoever is being taxed should be able to challenge the tax in the constituted authority. So I don't see any reason why it is the case that I'm asked to pay a tax and I cannot go to court because the taxing authority almost immediately undermines the very infrastructure around which the tax has been laid. So a tax is set, you say you disagree, let's go to court, but before you know where you are, the cables have been dug up. The base stations have been closed up. How does that work?
So, what is the way out of multiple taxation?
But there are three things that I would suggest. The first, the NCC, as the industry's regulator and, shall I say, supposed to be the industry's protector, should at the very least undertake an exercise that documents the extent, the size, the type, the frequency of multiple taxation and how it affects its charges. That's number one. Number two, I don't see why, as an industry, there is no attempt to take advantage of the Cybercrime Act. I really don't. And number three, I again don't understand why it is that taxing authorities consider themselves above the law. Why must they continue to behave in a manner that suggests that they are beyond errors? And even when they are not in error, I see no reason why they cannot be challenged.
What do you make of that?
I disagree with Dr. Salami. As we did point out a few episodes ago on this program, there's room for objection to tax assessment. And after going through the whole gamut of internal dispute resolution mechanisms, there's a recourse first to the Tax Appeal Tribunal, and then onto the Federal High Court, onto the Court of Appeal, and then the last bus stop, the Supreme Court. So it is not correct to say that the tax authorities are laws unto themselves. There are indeed some governmental organizations at state and local government levels that are not tax authorities and are not allowed under any law to collect taxes. They are the ones giving the tax system a bad name. And as we hear presently from the Executive Chairman, FIRS, Chairman Joint Tax Board, measures are in place and efforts are being made to rein in these spoilers. But first, this perspective from the moderator of the panel session.
When we talk about multiple taxation, we are not only talking about taxation by the Federal Inland Revenue, because taxes by that body is already defined and we know it. And I'm sure that maybe we want some of it reduced. But what we are talking about really are the taxes by the states, by agencies of government, by communities, by what we call area boys, and the impact of those taxes on the sector.
Now at this leadership summit, there's a panel, actually there's a paper on multiple taxation. They keep talking about multiple taxation. Is the FIRS in any way engaged in multiple taxation of the telecoms industry?
Well, first of all, FIRS is not engaged. And let me state here, multiple taxation only occurs when two tiers of government charge the same tax. Now, what we find out is that at the local government level, in some states, they have levies, they have user charges that they charge the telecom industry. Now, under the Joint Tax Board, I'm quite aware that they had a meeting with NCC to come up with an agreed amount that will be charged either for the mast or for other services.
Right of way.
Exactly. Now, how effective that is, I am not sure. However, by law, if a state is going to introduce a new tax, a new levy, at the local government level, it has to be passed by the State House of Assembly. If it's not passed by that State House of Assembly, it is illegal. And so the input I'll put here is that people should not pay any charge, any levy, any tax, which cannot be substantiated as being legal. And if they have issues, they can write to the Joint Tax Board. We even have in place policies whereby they can contact the state chairman of that state or even contact any office of FIRS, and we'll look into it, of course, free of charge, and if need be, come to the rescue of that taxpayer who is being charged an illegal tax or levy.
Remember that you can contribute to this program. You can make inquiries. You can get your questions answered by sending us text messages, by calling, and by tweeting. And don't forget that this episode and other past episodes of Tax Matters are available on our YouTube channel. See you around offline and online.
Thank you for watching.